We've got some bombshell news, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, absolutely crazy stuff right here due to what Uncle Trump has recently said. And yes, this is massive, absolutely massive, considering what this could actually mean due to Joe Biden's cognitive disability. And we got to talk about it, all right? And that is the Autopen. And what Uncle Trump recently said, and I'm going to read it. It's right there on your screen, as you guys can see. It says, any document signed by sleepy Joe Biden with the Autopen, which was approximately 92%, okay? Use the Autopen 92% of the time, is hereby terminated and of no further force or effect. The Autopen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. The radical left lunatics circling Biden around the beautiful Resolute desk in the Oval Office took the presidency away from him. I am hereby canceling all executive orders and anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden, because the people who operated the Autopen did so illegally. Joe Biden was not involved in the Autopen process, and if he says he was, he will be brought up on charges of perjury. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, I say this is massive because of the things that Joe Biden signed, allegedly signed, right? Because the Autopen. Those things include Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Supreme Court justice. Those things include appointing judges across this nation. Those things include pardons, right? Some preemptively, right? All types of things that were signed by Joe Biden's Autopen. So this could be absolutely massive. Massive. Now, I want to get into this clip of this whistleblower and what he had to say about Joe Biden's Autopen, because it is quite interesting. It is really quite interesting. So let me go ahead and play that for you guys. Check it out.
The U.S. Constitution vests executive power in a single person, the president. At the founding, the president exercised the executive power through only a small group of trusted advisors and personnel. In fact, President Washington had a 4-member cabinet. Today, the president directs a Leviathan executive branch with 15 cabinet departments and at least 4 million full-time executive branch employees. The executive branch proliferation has a single source of democratic legitimacy, that by order of U.S. Constitution's Article 2, the president is both elected by the American people and vested with the executive power, all of it. Traditionally, the president takes positive actions and authenticates those actions through his signature. His signature is required for the most significant actions he may undertake: to sign an executive order, to take any action invested in him by the Constitution, as in granting a pardon, and to take the most important action of all, to sign a bill into law. In all these cases, the president's signature is itself the protection of democratic principle. When the president signs, he communicates his assent and endorsement of the action he takes. The Autopen is a device that signs the president's signature to a document. The oversight project, of which I am a board member, has discovered that the Biden White House deployed an Autopen to affix President Biden's signature to pardons, prison commutations, executive orders, and presidential proclamations. The Oversight Project's research has found that the Biden White House first deployed the Autopen to affix President Biden's signature to a proclamation on day 5 of his administration, and that there were at least 3 different Autopen signatures in use throughout President Biden's tenure in the White House. In June 2022, the Biden White House began deploying the Autopen to sign clemency warrants and executive orders. Autopen use skyrocketed from there. We found that of the 51 clemency warrants issued during the Biden presidency, over half, 32 in total, were signed with an Autopen. And these include some of the most controversial acts of clemency of the Biden presidency, including death row commutations and the preemptive pardons of members of the Biden family, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and more that were issued in the final days of the Biden presidency. We reviewed President Biden's schedule and his publicly available media and were unable to find any record of President Biden's personally approving these actions, such as a statement issued by the president himself to reporters. In addition, we found that the Biden White House used the Autopen to affix President Biden's signature to clemency warrants and executive orders while the president himself was in Washington, D.C. for at least some of that day, and thus was presumably available to sign important executive actions. Finally, we found multiple days where President Biden wet signed a bill into law, but used an Autopen to issue an executive order or for other important executive actions. The Biden White House's widespread use of an Autopen to affix President Biden's signatures to documents that exercise executive powers belonging solely to the president poses significant constitutional, legal, and practical considerations. Once the president's signature is copied and loaded into the Autopen, the machine can sign documents as the president himself would. To be blunt, by using the Autopen, anyone can sign documents as the president himself. Now, to be clear, I'm not here today to suggest that the Autopen is bad. It's just technology. I'm here today because of...
I disagree. I think the Autopen should be gotten rid of. If you're too feeble to sign, and yes, I understand the president has to sign a lot of things, but that's why it's not a regular job. Okay, if you're not able to sign, then it just doesn't get passed. It just doesn't become law. That judge doesn't get appointed, whatever. The president himself, or herself, maybe one day, needs to be able to sign each and every document. No Autopen. Get rid of the Autopen. That's my philosophy. That's my thinking on it. But what's yours? Let me know in the comments, all right?
Questions concerning President Biden's capacity and whether the Autopen was used to usurp presidential power or to conceal the president's decline. As the sitting president's mental acuity declined, potentially to the point of incapacitation, his administration's expansion of the powers of the presidency raises more questions than answers. Any investigation into this matter should focus not only on whether President Biden directed or authorized subordinate staff to take action in certain instances, but whether he had the capacity to do so at all. The 25th Amendment lays out clear procedures for what to do when the president is incapacitated. It was carefully drafted and informed by our nation's history. The Biden administration ignored it all to aggrandize executive power and push the country further in their preferred ideological direction. It is our obligation at this point to get to the bottom of these issues and to ask the important question as to whether or not the Autopen and other devices were used to cover and obscure President Biden's mental decline, undermining our national security and also the Constitution.
Yeah. So lots of weird things going on. He signed for one thing, but used the Autopen for others on the same exact day. He was in DC, but still used the Autopen on certain days. Weird stuff going on. A lot of weird stuff happening. And I want to play this other clip from White House correspondent Gabrielle. I don't even know how to pronounce her name. We're going to call her Gabrielle C. But she has firsthand experience working with the Autopen in the White House. And take a listen to what she had to say about the Autopen. Check it out.
We never print out any presidential document that requires the signature unless it says in writing, ready for AP being Autopen. Then myself or any of my former coworkers would take that document, walk it up to the 5th floor of the executive building, and we would hand it over and stand there, sign a piece of paper with Office of Records Management. There's a whole process that is required to be cataloged. So when you hear someone say, I don't know who told me which way or whatever. Well, even look at the recent New York Times article. Joe Biden said, I was responsible for all of those 1,000 plus pardons. And Jeff Zients, the chief of staff, was also there and he could vouch for me. All that is in the National Archives. It's on the White House server. So if these people don't want to necessarily perjure themselves, although I think they already have guilt by admission in some cases and omission, there is an easy process in which the National Archives and the White House servers themselves,
So, as you heard there from someone who has experience with the Autopen, there is a process that goes along with using the Autopen. So, long story short, there should be a paper trail for each and every document that the Autopen signed. And if there isn't the paper trail, then things are going to be null and void, and some people may be going to prison. Okay? So, this is going to be quite interesting. This is going to be quite interesting, and I want to read something that Nick Sorter said. I'm going to throw it up on the screen. He says, "Huge. President Trump may be angling to nullify DEI judge appointments made by the Biden White House as the Biden did not there's a typo there. As Biden did not sign their commissions as required by law. This would be massive. DEI Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson could be in danger of losing her seat. For example, statutes dating back to 1792, okay, and still in force, require that commissions be signed by the president and sealed with the Great Seal. If a staffer used the Autopen to sign Biden's name without his authorization on the commission for Article 3 judges, the argument can and should be made that their rulings are not enforceable." Yeah, so Ketanji Brown Jackson could be on her way out of the door. And how massive would that be? How massive would that be? Trump gets to appoint another judge? You know, honestly, I think Clarence Thomas should step down sometime soon while Trump is still in office. It's just the safest thing to do. Obviously, I think, Republicans will win in 28, but we're a long way from 28. But just to ensure that another Republican replaces him, I think Clarence Thomas should step down. He's done a fantastic job. I hate to watch him go, but, it's better safe than sorry, right? Better safe than sorry. But this will be absolutely huge if Ketanji Brown Jackson is deemed ineligible. I don't know if you guys have seen what Uncle Trump had posted. I want to show you guys this video clip. Check it out. So as you can see here, these are all of the previous presidents. There we go. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. One of these are not like the other. Oh, what is that? What is that? Joseph Biden? Trump, instead of putting Joe Biden's portrait there, he put an image of the Autopen. Hey, see, and this is why I love Uncle Trump, man. He is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. The funniest guy, man. The funniest. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, this is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge stuff. I also want to play this clip from Fox News about this entire situation, so check that out as well.
I'm going to read you exactly what he posted. He said, quote, "Any document signed by Sleepy Joe Biden with the Autopen, which was approximately 92% of them, is hereby terminated and of no further force or effect." He says the Autopen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. He also says in that post, quote, "I am hereby canceling all executive orders and anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden because the people who operated the Autopen did so illegally." He goes on to say in that post, Joe Biden was not involved in the Autopen process, and if he says he was, he'll be brought up on charges of perjury. He says, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." Of course, this was just posted moments ago to Truth Social. Again, the president, as we know, following him is at the golf course. So, of course, we're hoping to confirm and get any more information about this.
Yeah, so even Fox News has confirmed this entire situation going down. That was a legitimate post by Uncle Trump. And so as of right now, everything's null and void, or at least 92%. Now, what I think is going to happen is this is obviously going to go all the way up to the Supreme Court. It's going to work its way up, including the Ketanji Brown Jackson whole debacle. And she's going to have to step aside as they're ruling on this. She won't be able to obviously make a judgment on whether she herself should still be there. And to be quite honest, I could see a situation where they don't kick her off, right? Or vote to, get rid of her. But I also could see a world where they do rule that a lot of the other things that were signed, they're out the window. They are out the window. And I make that distinction because a Supreme Court justice is a massive thing. That is a lifetime appointment. That is a lifetime appointment. So forcing a Supreme Court judge off the Supreme Court, even if the Autopen, that's huge. That is massive. That is absolutely massive stuff. Now, is it possible? Yeah, I'd give it like a 30% chance that they're like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to be here, Ketanji. Gotta go. You know, I'll give it like a 30%. Y'all can let me know what you think in the comments as far as that goes. I'm not jumping up and down waiting for that, but some of the other stuff, yeah, I think it's pretty likely they may rule in Trump's favor that was, especially if there's no paper trail. There should be a paper trail. Now, if there is a paper trail, well, then all of this goes out of the window. But if there isn't a paper trail, which based on some of the things that we've heard, there isn't really a paper trail, all of this stuff could be right out the window, including a lot of those pardons that were allegedly signed by the Autopen. So that is really going to get quite interesting. The whole Fauci thing, oh man, yeah, that could, this could be really, really explosive, guys. This could be really, really huge in terms of just shaking up the entire country and bringing some people to justice that deserve to be brought to justice. But as always, y'all get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Thanks for tuning in. As always, make sure you guys hit that like button before you go and hit the subscribe button if you aren't subscribed already. All right. Stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.